That was a good start. Good evening, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks to everyone for attending this meeting of the Planning Committee, Tuesday the 12th of November. I'm Councillor June Molyneux, I chair the committee. Councillor Alex Hilton is the Vice Chair. Please note the meeting is being streamed live on YouTube. If you're in attendance as a member of the public who's registered to speak, please note you'll have a time limit of up to 3 minutes. The legal officer will operate a stopwatch and confirm when your time runs out. You should finish speaking or in the middle of making a point within a few seconds, wind up and finish speaking. Otherwise, your microphone will be muted. To assist the following of the proceedings, a pack's been prepared and is available online, which contains each item's reports, plans and presentation slides. After officers have presented the report and any speakers have made their representations, I'll invite members to make any comments. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand, and when invited to speak, remember to use your microphone, as I didn't, and reference the paragraph number, which allows everyone to follow. Please keep in mind that some people require closed captions and or lip reading to follow the proceedings, so please speak slowly and clearly and try not to obstruct your mouth. Please can everyone ensure their phones are turned to silent. We're not expecting a fire drill, so if the alarms sound, please go out the same way as you came in. Apologies. Ruth.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies have been received from Councillor Chris Snow with Councillor Sarah Ainsworth acting as substitute and Councillor Danny G with Councillor Adrian Lowe acting as substitute. We also have apologies from Councillor Arjun Singh. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Item 2, declarations of any interest. Members are reminded of their responsibility to declare any pecuniary interest in respect of matters contained in the agenda. If you have such an interest, you must withdraw from the meeting. Normally, you should leave the room before the business starts to be discussed. You do, however, have the same right to speak as a member of the public and may remain in the room to enable you to exercise that right and then leave immediately. In either case, you must not seek to improperly influence a decision on the matter. Councillor Beach.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to declare an interest in item 3B as the current ward councillor
Okay,
for that.
thank you. Right, thank you. So we've got that. Item 3, the minutes of the previous meeting, pages 3 to 6 in your pack. Can somebody move those, please? Thank you. Seconded. All those in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. They're approved. Item 3, the planning applications to be determined. For the benefit of the public here tonight, the speaking arrangements for the planning meeting are as follows. The officers will summarise the report, and registered speakers will be invited to speak in the following order: objector, supporter, parish or town councillor, ward councillor, applicant or their agent. All registered speakers will be allowed to speak for up to 3 minutes, apart from a ward councillor who may speak for up to 5 minutes. In the event that all speakers are against the application, as chair, I will grant the applicant or his representative a time extension. I would respectfully ask members of the public who have not registered to speak to remain quiet throughout the proceedings. With that, we will move on to item 3A. JF Electrical Little Quarry Hilltop Lane, Whitley Woods, pages 7 to 36 on your addendum. On your agenda, with an update on your addendum, including amended conditions. Ian Crossland's going to present this item. The recommendation is that the reserve matters of appearance, layout and landscaping are approved subject to conditions. I have 3 registered speakers: Parish Councillor Peter Hyam, the Ward Councillor Deirdre Moss and the agent Paul Sedgwick. Ian, can you present the report, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This application seeks reserve matters consent, including details of appearance, layout, scale and landscaping for the erection of 85 dwellings pursuant to an outline planning permission that was granted in August 2013. The application site is a former quarry that has been remodelled and filled to provide a development platform in anticipation of the residential development of the site. The site is located off Hilltop Lane to the west of Chorley Old Road in Whittle Woods. It's to the east, actually, isn't it? The principle of development has been established through the grant of outline planning permission and the erection of and the allocation of the site for housing in the Chorley local plan. The proposed development would comprise a generally low-density suburban style layout and would be largely contained and screened by surrounding topography and landscaping. The proposed dwellings themselves will be of a traditional design style, comprising detached and terrace properties faced in stone, red brick and render. There would be in-curtilage parking to the front or sides, with gardens to the rear. Peripheral trees and landscaping would be retained across the site, where they are of most value, and there would be a large area of amenity green space to the east of the site, with a children's play area, and there would be public open space surrounding the outside of the site. The development would respond positively to the features of the site and its surroundings, and it is well designed in consideration of the Council's design standards. There'd be no unacceptable impacts on residential amenity as a result of the proposals, with the Council's interface standards observed in relation to existing dwellings, whilst the relationship between the new dwellings will be acceptable and is well considered. The access from Hilltop Lane has been approved as part of the outline planning permission, and the associated highway details are required by condition attached to that planning permission. The layout of the development has been considered by LCC Highways as part of this reserved matters. There will be a circular estate road extending from the access to Hilltop Lane, a pedestrian access route around the periphery of the site, and a pedestrian access from the site to Smith Street, providing a shortened route to Chorley Old Road. It's confirmed that adequate off-street parking will be achieved in line with the Council's parking standards, and the proposed layout has been accepted by LCC Highways, subject to conditions requiring the final construction details. Affordable housing and public open space will be provided on site in line with the terms of the outline planning permission. Ecology and drainage impacts were considered at outline stage, and further details of these will be submitted in due course. It's therefore recommended that this reserved matters application is approved subject to the conditions set out on the addendum. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Have I got Peter Hyam, please? Yeah.
I'm Peter Hyam, Whitley Woods Parish Council. No doubt members will have read the Parish Council's comments submitted on the 3rd of September this year. I'm only going to refer to paragraph A concerning the protected trees. An area of protection was granted some years ago along the side of Hilltop Lane, which borders the application site. This was to conserve the country lane environment and appearance prior to the infilling of the quarry. A few years ago, Ruckles operatives were a bit over-enthusiastic and commenced digging into that protected area. Luckily, we were passing at the time and got the work stopped. Subsequently, with the help of Lancashire County Council, the site was restored and Ruckles were obliged to replant replacement trees. It is not clear from the plans submitted today that those protected trees between the border of Hilltop Lane and the internal service road in front of plots 1 to 6 are to remain. If granted, the Parish Council wishes that a clear and robust condition be attached to this application to ensure that all these protected trees remain untouched. Thank you.
Councillor Moss.
Thank you, Councillor Moss, Ward Councillor. I would like Lancashire Highways Department to look at this again, because although this was passed in 2013, I am concerned that there is a lot more traffic on Chorley Old Road now due to other developments that have already taken place. I would also like to ask if an independent inquiry has been held into the stability of the land, as this was one of the conditions put on this application originally. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Have I got Paul Sedgwick, please? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. This application is just for the reserve matters. It includes landscaping. Highways was dealt with back in the day of the outline consent. Highways on your agenda additional item, Highways have looked at it again and said there's no reason to refuse it. So it's not something that would be of concern to the Highways people, and in any event, it has consent, subject to, and there's a lot of conditions in the outline planning permission that still need to be discharged, including carrying out a safety audit on the road and tweaking the design. So, with regard to trees, there's a condition 6 proposed on the agenda papers, which requires detailed planting proposals, location, and so on, which would cover that concern. Otherwise, I don't think there's any concerns that have not been addressed. You have a comprehensive report from Ian Crossland, so I don't need to say any more. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. No? Okay. Over to you, members. Yes, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. So I do share the concerns that my ward councillor, Councillor Moss, raised, but I appreciate that the fact of if to clarify, just that boat has sailed now in terms of the planning permission, so that's all been dealt with. So that's out with the focus of this planning area. So I understand that's now gone. And the focus is purely just on the aesthetics and the layout of the site. So I just want to make it clear in terms of my constituents in areas that's what we're focusing on today. In terms of the comment with Peter Hyam, I know that people are quite fond of those trees down that area. So if they were protected, I would welcome that. So I just, from my point of view, just want to make it clear that we are just focusing on the layout of the site, from my understanding, if that's correct.
Okay. Any other comments? Ian?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Through you, just to respond to you, Councillor Green, on that point. Outline planning permission has been granted, and that did cover access and the ability to access the site and the effect of traffic on the local roads. So those issues were covered at the outline planning stage. So the resolved position of the council is that housing will be developed on this site. The current reserve matters application is really concerned with the way the development will look, the way it's laid out and landscaped, and it's those details that we're looking at as part of this application. It's how that housing development will be delivered on the site. So hopefully that answers your question, Councillor. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Chair. That's very clear. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Hilton.
Thank you, Chair. As we've pointed out, this is a reserve matters application, and I'm quite happy with everything here. Outline planning permission's already been agreed, so I'm quite happy to propose officer recommendations. I see no reason not to. Thanks.
Councillor Southern.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, reserve matters. I'd second Councillor Hilton's proposition, please.
Thank you. Any more comments from anybody? If not, I'll move to the vote. Please, Dan. It's not here. I'm looking at a map. I know, because I didn't know what I was doing. There you go.
Thank you, Chair. Members have voted unanimously to approve reserve matters subject to conditions.
If anybody's just come for that item and wish to leave, please feel free before we move on. That's confused me totally now about this map here. I don't know. He's working on it. Why didn't it? He's doing his best. Don't you just love computers when they work? Thank you. Moving on. Item 3B, the Beaumont Wooddale Road, Clayton, pages 37 to 70 with an update on your addendum, including an amended condition. Adele's going to present this item. Officer recommendation is planning permission is granted subject to conditions. Councillor Beach wishes to speak and then she will leave the room. I have an objector Ron Gates and then the agent Katie Howarth. Adele, can you present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
This application seeks planning permission for the demolition of a vacant public house and for the erection of a drive-through restaurant with associated access, servicing, car parking, hard and soft landscaping and other associated works. The application site is located within the settlement area of Chorley, where the principle of new development is supported under the provisions of Policy V2 of the Chorley Local Plan. In addition, the site lies within a district centre and Policy EP7 of the local plan states that planning permission will be granted for uses which support the role and function of the district centre, which includes uses such as that is now proposed. The application would result in the loss of a community facility, i.e. the public house, and therefore policy HW6 of the local plan is engaged. As set out within the committee report, given the number of public houses within the local area and the length of time the public house has been closed, it is considered that the proposal accords with the provisions of this policy. The application has been submitted with a noise impact assessment, an air quality assessment and an odour control report, and these assessments and the wider impact on neighbour amenity have been considered by the Council's Environmental Health Officer, who has raised no objections. A transport assessment has also been submitted with the application, which has been considered by LCC Highway Services, and further information and amendments have been submitted since the application was initially submitted. LCC Highway Services have advised that they do not have any objections regarding the proposal and are of the opinion that it would not have a significant impact on highway safety, capacity or amenity in the immediate vicinity of the site. The proposed site plan includes car parking for 41 vehicles, which exceeds the minimum parking standards and is considered acceptable by LCC Highway Services. The application site is seen within the context of commercial and retail buildings of a larger scale than that what is now proposed, and it's considered that the siting scale and design of the proposal would retain the character of the site and the wider area. It is therefore considered that the application accords with the provisions of Policy BNE1 of the local plan and is acceptable in this regard. In conclusion, the loss of a community facility has been justified and it is considered that there would be no unacceptable detrimental impacts on the amenity of neighbour occupiers or the appearance and character of the area as a result of the proposed development. In addition, the development is located in a sustainable location and would not have an unacceptable impact on highway safety. On the basis of this, and as set out in the main committee report, it is recommended that planning permission is granted. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Adele. Councillor Beach, and then you're going to leave us.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Planning Committee colleagues, for allowing me this opportunity as one of the ward councillors for Clayton East, Brindle and Horton to raise residents' objections in relation to the proposed planning application before you this evening. Several residents have raised the following concerns: lawlessness and antisocial behaviour, which could ultimately lead to serious crime such as drug taking, etc. There have been reports of such behaviour linked to the sites at Chorley and Leyland, and residents feel that this would be detrimental and in perpetuity to the local community of Clayton Woods. Delivery times such as early morning and evenings will cause disturbances to local elderly residents, as there is no provision for acoustic fencing to be erected. The flow of traffic will cause significant traffic problems should the current system be in place be followed. Traffic jams will be inevitable and will lead to an increase in accidents. There are 6 primary schools and 3 nurseries in close proximity to the site, all of whom, in partnership with GP surgeries, health centres and indeed parents, try to encourage and promote healthy eating. This could be undermined as there are already 3 McDonald's plus many other fast food outlets within a 4-mile radius which are currently accessible within a 10-minute drive. McDonald's produce around the world approximately 1 million tonnes of disposable paper and plastic waste. This waste is then thrown away by users around roads, lanes, gardens and the countryside, causing an unsightly environment for both people and wildlife. 61% of residents have raised objections to the planning application, and I would like to see the following proposed conditions applied to the application with what's already been put in place. Low emission lighting to negate light pollution for residents in close proximity to the site. Acoustic fencing to surround the site to negate noise disturbance for residents. Delivery times to be midday, again to try and negate traffic congestion, noise and pollution. The flow of traffic to site at all times to enter via Library Road and exit onto Wooddale Road. Closing time of no later than 11 p.m. throughout the week to try and prevent noise disturbance to residents and antisocial behaviour. Security staff to be utilised during peak times, specifically Friday and Saturday evenings to closing time. Good quality CCTV to be installed both inside and the surrounding area of a minimum of half a mile up to a mile radius to negate any criminality, antisocial behaviour and littering. Litter picking to be undertaken a minimum of 3 times per day, 7 days a week, again for a minimum of half to 1 mile radius. Thank you, Madam Chair and colleagues. I'll now exit the meeting.
Thank you. Have I got wrong gates, please? Okay.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be as brief and succinct as possible. I have noted that those in favour of this development were well over 2 to 1 against McDonald's in their survey and an astounding 8 to 1 against in the council survey. The objections are founded on the following. It will be a magnet for antisocial behaviour, already seen on numerous occasions since Starbucks opened, and similar experiences are well documented for McDonald's, Leyland and countrywide. Leightonley Woods is a quiet residential area where many elderly people live and shop, who would feel nervous and intimidated by the possibility of threatening behaviour by young people and boy racers. The country already has more than enough social problems, and we do not want to create more in our quiet neighbourhood, giving needless work for the already overstretched local police force. Inevitably, this project is also going to cause substantial increased traffic to an already busy area. But despite the above facts, it is astounding that both the County Council Highways and the police reports appear to support the application. Equally, it's surprising that many people who have said that they're in favour of this application have also voiced their concerns about the points raised above. Whilst most people who are in favour of this application will not agree, there are millions of people who clearly know that McDonald's does not offer a well-balanced diet for anyone throughout the world. This contributes to poor health and obesity in children and adults in every community, and in our case has contributed to a huge burden on the NHS. Whilst it is likely that many objectors are not against fast food outlets per se, they do object to McDonald's and their American counterparts, who have taken over the world with their unhealthy food, which incidentally is expensive, and unfortunately it's the poorer people in our society who are most heavily affected. It will take many years to return the health of the nation back to where it should be. Indeed, if this can ever be achieved. It would be wonderful if we could establish, with council encouragement and government support, a raft of new small British businesses which would provide only good, healthy and wholesome food. Surely this is not too far-fetched an idea to imagine. If Chorley Borough Council, in partnership with other councils in the North West, could get the ball rolling with viable projects, starting on this Beaumont site, the prestige that would be gained would be a first step in placing Lancashire back on the
Could you be winding up, please? You've had
entrepreneurial
your 3
world
minutes.
stage where it once was, 1.5 centuries ago, with the cotton industry. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I've got Katie Howarth, please.
Try that one, sorry. It's probably user error, sorry. Thank you, Chair and members of the Planning Committee. My name is Katie Howarth of Lichfields, the agent to this application. I'd like to thank the Planning Office for their presentation and endorse the recommendation of approval. Given the recommendation, I'm not proposing to repeat the merits of the scheme in detail, but would like to just touch on a few points. The site is located in Clayton Green District Centre and is occupied by a former public house which has been closed for over 18 months. The proposed new drive-through restaurant will complement the existing commercial uses and bring this prominent site, which appears neglected and detracts from the appearance of the local area, back into active use. The impact of the development on the local road network has been assessed and found by the local highways authority to be acceptable. The findings of the other technical assessments submitted have also been accepted by consultees. Specifically, Environmental Health has confirmed they have no objection to the scheme in terms of noise, light or odour. The proposals would provide significant economic benefits. The scheme represents a major investment into the local economy, and up to 120 new jobs and a range of positions will be created once the restaurant is operational. It will also generate additional business rates for the council. In summary, the scheme accords with the development plan and would not result in any harm in planning terms. On this basis, I would urge you to support your officer's recommendation and approve the application before you this evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do you need to come back on anything? Okay, now.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Just to draw attention to the details in the report, matters of concern that have been spoken about relating to issues on impact on health, antisocial behaviour and litter are addressed in the main body of the committee report. And to bring your attention to, in particular, following the concerns that have been expressed, there is a condition requiring details of the delivery and service plan to be submitted to mitigate any impact on the highway network. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Over to you, members. Councillor Hilton.
Thank you, Chair. Just reiterating what Adele said there, really. A lot of this has been addressed in the report. Sorry. Just reiterating what Adele said, a lot of this has been addressed in the report. This is a district centre, so therefore this is an appropriate location for a drive-through restaurant. In terms of antisocial behaviour, I think the word lawlessness was used. I think we have to remember that this was actually a pub beforehand, and I would have thought that there would probably be more antisocial behaviour and problems coming from a pub rather than a drive-through restaurant. This will be an employer to the local community, particularly youth employment. So that would be a benefit there. The police have raised no objection to this, and I think comments on the health of the food is not a planning consideration and should not be taken into account in this committee. Neither should it be whether this is a British business or not. That is completely irrelevant to the planning process. I'm quite satisfied with everything that I've seen in the report here, so I feel quite comfortable with this, but I'd like to hear other members' opinions. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Wilkie, Councillor Ainsworth, Councillor Whittam and Councillor Southern. Anybody else?
Thank you, Chair. The actual site at the moment is derelict as far as we understand, so it was a previous business, so I agree in principle what Councillor Hilton says. I also agree it is an employment opportunity. It is a shame that the only person that came forward is a fast food restaurant because of this. I know this area and this locality. This will be very popular with people of low socio-economic. However, I don't feel that's a consideration for the planning committee. It's not for the council to become a nanny state and dictate what people can and can't eat. I think with the considerations that we've put in place about noise, deliveries would be fair.
yeah, it's sad, but it's a sign of the times, and this is it's a planning opportunity, I suppose, for McDonald's to put something in that probably will be very successful. So I can't object to it, I'm afraid.
Thank you. Councillor Ainsworth.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm happy to propose this application, just on the basis as well. You've got Walton Summit next door to this premises, and anybody who works on Walton Summit, my firm's got an office around there. There's nowhere to eat around there. You're limited on where you can go. So I'm more than happy to see this being welcomed. It's going to provide another eating outlet to businesses, to people who are passing around the area. It's going to create jobs, and also I just with the traffic as well. I just also noticed we do have a similar development on Tesco just down the road. There's a McDonald's down there, and that seems to work really well. So I'm happy to support this application.
Thank you. Councillor Whittam, please.
Thank you, Chair. Could I ask, please, does the business intend to open 24 hours a day?
Yeah, through you, Chair. Yeah, given the district centre location, the proposal as submitted seeks 24 hours a day operation activity. Whether that actually is realised from an operational point of view, we don't know, but there are no, from officer point of view, there are no recommended hours restrictions.
Come back on that. Thanks, Chair. The reason I asked the question is that none of the other businesses on the site actually operate 24 hours. I think Asda's actually packed in working 24 hours as such back in 2020 because of the lack of footfall. Notwithstanding that, other issues, the lighting which has been addressed, the business in question seems to have large signage that's permanent on at night time. I think that would affect the wildlife around there as well. The police issue that was mentioned in the report, I'm quite surprised. I regularly receive police reports of antisocial behaviour there and petty crime already, so I'm rather surprised that they came back with that. But I'll leave it at that for the moment. Thank you.
Councillor Southern. Sorry.
Yeah, I just want to clarify the point you've made about the signage, just to make the committee aware this is an application for a development proposal. It doesn't include any signage at this stage. Any illuminated signage would need to be the subject of a further application for advertisement consent, at which point we would consider the likely luminance from those signs and the times that they're available to be illuminated. So I just wanted to make that point, just so for clarity.
Okay, thanks for that. It was the light pollution that was the big issue here. One of the.
Okay, Councillor Southern.
Thank you, Chair. Well, it's another pub that's gone by the way, and not long after I moved down here, I remember this pub opening because Billy Bowman opened it, hence the name, the Bowman Pub. It was one of my little drinking holes at one time, but alas, it's fallen into disrepair. And as already been noted, it's a shame that no other commercial organisation wants to take the site over. There are merits and demerits to McDonald's on this site, and I can see both sides of it. And whilst I can anticipate what's going to happen, strictly speaking, that's not a planning issue. One of the points that Councillor Beach made was about CCTV, and if I was to say anything about this development, if we could condition it, could we put a condition on that CCTV was included in that?
No, that's really, sorry, through you, Chair. It's more a management responsibility to protect their own building and the site activity, so it wouldn't, such a condition wouldn't meet the test.
I get that, but I just thought I'd ask anyway. So apart from that, Chair, I can't see any reason why I could object to it on the basis that, as I said, it fits within the district centre. Councillor Whittam's made mention of the fact that Asda doesn't work 24 hours a day. I think he's right, actually. I think they did shut 2020. I think they stopped doing that. Having said that, it may well be a commercial issue that McDonald's want to take on, whether it's commercially viable to open 24 hours, I don't know. But again, that's in a planning consideration. So on that basis, I would propose that the officer's recommendation is to accept.
Councillor Morwood.
Thank you, Chair. McDonald's does seem to get blamed regularly for the problems of the world, virtually. And certainly a few years back, it probably had very poor practices. But I think they've learned over the years that good practice, good business practice leads to good community involvement and better benefits for them in terms of profits. Whether you eat fast food or not, whether you like it or not, isn't our concern. Sadly, we don't have any restrictions in our policies at the moment that if it's near schools and so on, we can restrict it, much as some of us might think we should, and maybe that can be taken into consideration when the new local plan is coming along. But I think they've learned, their employment practices have improved, I think, a lot over the years, if you keep track of what's going on. Their training is far better. The community involvement is far better. In fact, probably the best in fast food. In terms of litter, they're always carrying out regular patrols. All the McDonald's do that. They can't be blamed for the person who drives through, takes it down the road, and then chucks their stuff into the hedgerow. That's a community problem, not a planning problem, not even McDonald's problem. It's a problem of society, and we can't solve that just here and now, much again as we'd like to do. That's for other bodies. But I do hear some of the concerns, as Councillor Whittam said, about possible 24 hours. And the chances are, if, as the NOAC have done away with it, that there isn't that need, but who knows? But thinking on that, could I suggest perhaps a condition that may alleviate concerns of residents and councillors in terms of the timing? And so could I propose a condition be put in that permits the operator only to operate between the hours of, let's say, 8 o'clock in the morning and midnight? Was it 800 and 2400? I'll stick to old-fashioned money, I think. Monday to Saturday, and 8 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock on Sunday. If suddenly McDonald's think they will need 24 hours, then they can come back and request difference. But I think in the interests of the amenity in the area and concern for the adjoining and nearby residential properties, that might be worth considering. Thank you.
Do you want to come back or any?
Yeah, I'm just mindful that it is in the district centre, and whilst there is a very close proximity, well, not a very close, but a close proximity to residential houses, knowing the operating model for McDonald's, I think 8 o'clock may be a little bit too late in the morning because they do a breakfast service. So I would, you may want to consider whether an earlier time is more appropriate.
I do enjoy their breakfast.
Sorry?
Can I just ask though, does that opening at 7, does that mean deliveries are happening at 6?
I think the delivery issue is different because the delivery, sorry, through you, Chair,
Yeah.
the delivery issue will be controlled via the imposition of a condition. This is about when it's open to members of the public. And I think actually McDonald's serve breakfast from 6 o'clock. Just for information. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. McDonald's, the training of McDonald's, I've heard from other restaurant owners, is some of the best in the world. They also help a lot of young people on the promotional ladder, but they help them with, correct me if I'm wrong, the young lady behind me, the equivalent to GCSEs and help them on the academic road. They do a lot of community work. They do send staff out to litter pick. They employ a lot of young people. A lot of those young people are A-level students, undergraduates, postgraduate students, and a lot do actually stay with the company in managerial roles. As for not opening 24 hours, well, Asda not that long ago opened for 24 hours. I believe, I haven't been down Preston Road for a while, but there was a Shell garage around the corner. Presumably that has cars and lorries going in 24 hours, as do other garages. So I'm not too sure about restricting the hours. I know if we look at the McDonald's in Chorley, it's pretty quiet during the night, but it is open. Thank you, Chair.
The question earlier about the 24 hours was more to do with the light pollution, but furthermore, it's not on a trunk road either. So I think Councillor Morwood's condition of hours would be apt in this particular instance. Thank you.
I would feel comfortable with the condition of hours, but can we just drill down to what hours they're actually going to be? Because I'm not quite sure what's being proposed here.
Councillor Lowe.
Thank you, Chair. Could I suggest, if it's at all practical, a condition 6 in the morning till midnight? Seems reasonable, bearing in mind the comments that have been made. And just for clarification, I'm correct in thinking, as Adele said, that future applications will need to be considered by this committee in terms of advertising consent to deal with some other issues. But obviously the report is quite thorough, and just a couple of quick references in terms of the impact or the potential impact on health. Refer members to paragraph 53 of the report, and we don't have a policy or a supplementary planning document that might come in the future, as Councillor Morwood has said, so we could not necessarily turn this application down on health-related matters. And also in terms of reference to paragraphs 55 and also 56. 55 with regard to the comments that the restaurant operates an extensive CCTV system, and also the bottom of paragraph 56, I'll just say, Chair, is the company has a long history of supporting Keep Britain Tidy and other litter thing, and they have proposed a lot of provision. So with that, Chair, I'm quite happy to move that 6 AM to midnight condition.
Councillor Green.
I personally feel a bit uncomfortable about placing an hours restriction on it without having any kind of assessment done to justify that. It's almost a bit like sticking a finger in the air. I just, and also whether there is actually would be a benefit on that, and also potential disbenefit to the viability of the business. I know with my job I travel quite a bit, and I have been known to stop off at a various outlet at the time, and I've been various early in the morning and quite late in the evenings, and generally I don't find them frequented by lots of people making lots of noise or people revving their cars up. So I do impose that condition. I just feel uncomfortable having any kind of basis for it.
Okay.
Go
on, Adele.
Yeah, through you, Chair. I think, obviously, committee have heard the representations that have been made by the residents and the ward councillor, and have expressed concern about the potential impacts on the level of amenity that may be impacted on local residents, taking into account the proximity to residential properties. So that's a reasonable conclusion to come to, and it's an appropriate condition to suggest, and I don't think that we would need to actually seek any further information, because it is open to the applicant to seek to remove the condition during, you know, a further process. But it's a reasonable conclusion for members to come to, taking into account that they've listened to the representations that have been made during committee and the comments of members. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Moore, oh, just go on. He's got his hand up.
Just going to come to that, in terms of that then, in terms of the hours, then I think if we're going to go down that route, 12 o'clock at night, fair enough. I think it's maybe if they start serving at 6 o'clock, then 6 o'clock, then fair enough on that point of view.
Up to me, not Councillor Marwood.
The main reason was for the avoidance of 24 hours, because I did think that was pretty inappropriate in this quite residential area. I mean, it's not quite so bad for the likes of ones at Tesco. It's in the middle of an industrial estate and so forth. So my main concern was the time it finished. To be perfectly honest, it's up to the businesses to decide when they start, but my main concern was when they finished. Although I do think, because it's a residential area, I'm sure they're not going to look forward to a lot of noise and so forth at 6 o'clock, although I have no idea how many people are going to use it and so forth. So I'm open to whatever suggestions is, but my concern was to avoid 24 hours. And it was the finishing time I was more concerned with.
Councillor Moore, would you be happy for us to have it to be from 6 a.m. to 12?
Certainly.
Yeah? Okay. So you proposed that. Councillor Law, you seconded that. Councillor Southern proposed that we accept the officer report, but nobody seconded that. Are you seconding that? Okay, so we'll take the amendment first, that we put the condition on from 6 till 12. Heaven knows where it'll come up this time. Behind me again. Oh, it's over there. To 12, to midnight. Yeah, okay. All those in favour of that, please show. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Members have voted to approve the amendment to the opening hours to between 6 and 12.
Thank you. Item 3C, the Duke of York, Bolton Street, Charlie, pages 71 to 100, with an update on your addendum, including an amended condition. Adele's going to present this item. The application is approved subject to conditions, and I've no registered speakers. Off you go, Adele.
Thank you. This application site is located in the settlement area of Chorley on the western side of the A6, approximately 90 metres to the south of Chorley town centre. The property is a detached two-storey building which previously accommodated the Duke of York Public House. The immediate locality is a densely built-up urban environment characterised by a mix of land uses and building types, including residential properties and a variety of commercial premises. Planning permission is sought to change the use of the property from a public house to a 14-bedroomed house in multiple occupation at basement level and across the whole of the ground floor of the building. Planning permission is also sought for a first floor side and rear extension and for roof alterations involving an increase to the ridge height and the installation of roof lights in order to facilitate the provision of 6 apartments at first and second floor levels. A cycle shelter would be installed underneath an existing canopy structure located within the rear yard of the site. One representation has been received objecting to the proposed development of the ground floor, of the basement and the ground floor, and on the basis that there is a lack of infrastructure to support the development and that the development would place increased pressures on emergency services and public transport. There are no outstanding objections to the scheme from any of the technical consultees. It is considered that the proposal would not adversely affect neighbouring residential amenity and would provide acceptable living accommodations for future occupiers of the proposed development. It's also considered that it would be appropriately designed and would not be harmful to the character of the immediate locality. The site does not contain any parking provision and the application does not propose any. However, LCC Highways have advised that they do not have any objections to the proposal and consider that it would not have a significant impact on highway safety, capacity or the amenity of the area. The site is within acceptable walking distance of Chorley Town Centre and has good accessibility in relation to employment opportunities, retail, schools, health centres, the hospital, police station and local amenities. In addition, the site is located approximately 170 metres away from Chorley's main central bus station and 160 metres away from the railway station. An amended site plan has been submitted which demonstrates that there is access to the rear of the site in order to facilitate the provision of bin and cycle storage. The scheme also involves the installation of bollards along the site frontage at the adopted highway boundary in order to ensure safe pedestrian movements by removing the opportunity for obstructive parking. This is to be secured through the provisions of a Section 278 agreement with LCC Highway Authority. It is therefore recommended that the application is approved subject to conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Adele. Over to you, members. Councillor Sherwood, Councillor Whittam.
Yeah, happy to support this application. It's sustainable. It's a much needed development. It would be in the area. It would actually improve it. And we want residents, residents to move into places like this, and those that have sprung up elsewhere around the town centre and in the town centre have proved very successful. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Whittam.
Thank you, Chair. As a council, we've already set a precedent with HMOs, several of recently within the town centre and the periphery. Unusually, this one seems to have parking spaces, so I'm happy to second Councillor Sherwood's.
Any more comments?
Nothing against HMOs, but I think this is too greedy. I think 14 is too many. Simply because I think the basement, I don't know who it's aimed at, but first floors and second floor, square meterage of 30, 40 odd, 50. There's a bedroom here, 11 square meters. Correction, 11.1. A small box. I just think that's just outrageous. Sadly, there's no planning reasons to turn it down, but I think that's out of order, and it's time we started bringing in some standards that say how big these things should be, especially in a basement with limited light and so forth. So that's my objection, but I say no planning reasons, but it's just not right.
Yeah, agree. Councillor Southern.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to echo my colleagues' comments. Councillor Morwood, I completely agree with them. Committee will know my feelings towards the HMOs, but they're not planning issues, they're building issues. And again, we should be looking at this and we should be putting some guidelines down for minimum amenities. This, to my mind, well, it's a building issue, not a planning issue. So on that basis, I'm happy to propose that we accept the change of use for this building, public house to an HMO. But again, I concur with my colleague, Councillor Morwood, on the future of what we should be doing with HMOs, and particularly within Chorley area. Thank you.
Thank you. Adele.
Yeah, just to respond to the comments that Councillor Morwood made, and I completely understand the comments that he's made, and this is a situation where we've probably got two regulatory regimes that aren't quite aligned. So from the planning point of view, we're looking at the land use that is proposed, and in terms of the quality of the accommodation and the size of the rooms, that will be controlled through the licensing regime that is operated by colleagues who deal with that matter in the council's environmental protection teams. So they do have standards that they will be looking to apply as part of the licensing regime, just to give you some comfort, Councillor Morwood.
Councillor Hilton.
Yeah, I think we need to look into that, because there are some dog kennels that are bigger than some of these rooms. I think it's appalling. Thank you.
I believe I did, Chair.
Somebody formally second that, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Members have voted to approve planning permission subject to conditions.
Thank you. Item 3D has been withdrawn, so we're going on to item 3E. Croston Hall Farm, pages 101 to 134, with an update on your addendum, including the recommendation and conditions. Ian's going to present this item, and the recommendation is members be minded to approve the application and delegate the decision to the Chief Planning Officer in consultation with Chair and Vice Chair, subject to no objections being received from Natural England. I've one registered speaker, the agent, Robert Harrison. Ian, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. This application seeks planning permission for the erection of 4 livestock buildings, 2 uncovered storage clamps, 1 building comprising a crop store, workshop and office with an associated yard, and the construction of a new vehicular access from Carr Lane. The site comprises agricultural pasture land associated with Croston Hall Farm and is located in the green belt to the south of Croston Village. There is an existing access track to the south of the site that will be closed off in lieu of the proposed new access. In terms of the principle of the development, the framework sets out that inappropriate development is by definition harmful to the green belt and should not be approved except in very special circumstances. The framework sets out a number of exceptions to inappropriate development in the green belt, one exception being buildings for agriculture and forestry. The development would support the expansion of an existing beef cattle farm, which falls within the definition of agriculture. The proposed development is therefore considered to be an exception to inappropriate development in the green belt. The proposed buildings will be large functional structures typical of modern agricultural units and will be appropriate to the proposed expansion of the farming operations. The buildings would be well contained and screened by the woodland at Carr Lane Strip. The construction of the new access, however, would have a clear impact on the woodland through the loss of trees to facilitate the access, which will be detrimental to the character of the lane to some extent. To mitigate this impact, it is proposed to cease the use of the southern access and to plant trees in place of the track. Further tree and hedgerow planting will be carried out on the site, whilst the woodland would receive improvement management practices. There would also be benefits in supporting the productivity of an existing agricultural business and shifting vehicle manoeuvring away from the nearest dwelling to the north of the site, which together with the mitigation measures are considered to outweigh the visual impacts of the development and the impacts on the character of Carr Lane. The buildings and structures are located some distance from the nearest dwelling and would in themselves have no impact, whilst the land is already in productive agricultural use. The proposed new access would provide a material improvement in comparison with the level of visibility available at the existing main access to the north, whilst the southerly access would be closed off, as referred to previously. Although the proposed development would increase the capacity of the farming operations, there will be no material increase in vehicular movements over and above current levels. This is on the basis that the delivery vehicles currently arrive at the site with partial loads of feed, and the increased numbers of cattle would enable the same vehicle to deliver a full load of feed. Similarly, vehicles leave the site with only partial loads of cattle, which would then become full loads should the proposed development go ahead. Lancashire County Council Highways have reviewed the proposal and raised no objection in relation to highway safety or capacity on that basis. The ecological impacts of the development will be mitigated through the proposed planting of trees and hedgerow, in addition to the provision of bat boxes. The habitat regulations assessment that's been carried out concludes that there will be no significant adverse impacts arising from the proposed scheme on the conservation objectives of the designated sites at Martin Mere or the Ribble and Alt estuaries, subject to mitigation measures around noise reduction during construction and the management of surface water during construction and operation to prevent pollution entering watercourses. All other issues are considered in detail within the committee report. Overall, the proposed development is considered to be in accordance with the policies of the development plan, and it's recommended that members be minded to approve the application and delegate the decision to the Chief Officer in consultation with Chair and Vice Chair, subject to no objections being received from Natural England and subject to the conditions set out on the addendum. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members of the committee. The planning application you've been asked to determine this evening is for the extension of an existing farm on the southern outskirts of Croston. The proposal incorporates the erection of a number of livestock buildings for rearing beef cattle and feed stores to improve and expand the existing farming business and its facilities at Croston Hall Farm, operated by the applicant, Mr. Andrew Wilkinson. Ian Crosland has outlined the proposal and carried out a thorough planning assessment to reach his recommendation that the proposal before you this evening is planning policy compliant and therefore should be approved. The development supports the expansion of an existing agricultural business with a young farmer at its helm, something which has been in sharp focus in recent weeks following the budget. Never has there been a greater need in recent history to support British agriculture. British produced beef is sold at McDonald's, and perhaps Croston Hall Farm beef will appear in the local one approved this evening. This is a positive development and helps to enhance and protect food security, support a young farmer in Chorley and ensure the continued active farming of the land attached to Croston Hall Farm rather than it fall completely into non-food producing uses as many land is doing. Two key areas require assessment. Firstly, is the development policy compliant, and secondly, have any potential adverse effects the development may have on the greenbelt been properly assessed. The proposed development, as outlined by Mr. Crossan, is for agricultural purposes. While Chorley's council's policy is silent on development in the Greenbelt, National Planning Policy Framework provides guidance for development in the Greenbelt. Paragraph 154, criteria A of the NPPF states that new buildings for the purpose of agriculture is an exception to inappropriate development in the Greenbelt. As you will have read in the officer's report and documents attached to this planning application, an assessment of the proposed development for highways, biodiversity, ecology, drainage, flooding, environmental protection, air quality, public rights of way and the Environment Agency have been carried out. None of these consultees have expressed concerns with the development which could not adequately be dealt with by the planning conditions drafted by Mr. Crosland. Enhancements to ecology and biodiversity will be created through the tree planting and erection of bat boxes. Drainage, a very sensitive issue in Croston, has been thoroughly addressed. Surface water will be captured, contained, and controlled through the implementation of a comprehensive drainage scheme designed by an expert third party and underpinned by the planning conditions proposed. The development is planning policy compliant under national planning policy, and all other concerns have been addressed by the council's consultees, and where necessary, those concerns adequately covered by the proposed planning conditions. I would therefore support the recommendation for you to approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to come back or anything on that, Ruby? Over to you.
Thanks, Chair. I think, I'm all for encouraging young people with businesses, and if this is local produce, has been alluded to be used within Chorley, I'm all for this, so I'm happy to propose the officer recommendations, Chair.
Thanks, Chair. I have no doubt that ultimately this will be approved. And I noticed today, I was grateful to get the really up-to-date comment about Natural England. But before I get to that, I just want to make a few points that I was going to make. We do recognise that this is agriculture, as the gentleman spoke to, and I recognise also that there are exceptions in the Green Belt about agriculture, about issues like this. I am a little bit concerned about the welfare of the animals, but that's something that is common. The main concerns I have about the location of this. It's dismissed in the report, and almost that it's 150 metres away. That's not very far from Croston Conservation Area. It's just across the back. And what we're proposing here, and I know these are the way that agriculture is going these days, are 4 large buildings, 91 metres by 17 metres, 2 large buildings, 49 metres by 24 metres, including clamps, 49 metres by 24 metres. But then there is the other issue that I'm concerned about, paragraph 37, you're always telling us to quote paragraphs, is about vehicular access, which is going along Car Lane, Turflands, Shevington Causeway, along to the main road out of Croston. The Parish Council have commented about it. The residents have commented about it. LCC ignored it, to my dismay, but they did. But the other thing, paragraph 13, it talks about increasing, and we understand we've got to feed folk, it's increasing the number of cattle from 300 to 1,200. Paragraph 13. So it's the impact on neighbours. I'm going through all these because I've come to the recommendation in a minute, Chairman, if you'll bear with me. The impact on neighbours is 150 metres away. A rather strange comment from the officer, and I have the greatest regard for Ian, as he knows, where it talks about smells, right? And this is, quote, an inevitable consequence of living in a rural community. That's a bit different than mug spreading, right? When you've got 1,200 cows contained within a situation like this. The highways issues, there are already issues about Car Lane and Turflands, and there's reference in the report to bollards and so on. And the other thing is, the final thing, which is what I'm pleased about the report that comes in about the comment from Natural England, because I was going to talk about pollution of watercourses in paragraph 75. And it says that the stuff will go via ditch into the River Douglas, into the River Yarrow, into the River Ribble, and then out to the sea. But it does say that it could have a negative impact on habitats. That's what we're always talking about nowadays. We're talking about pollution. We're talking about not necessarily agricultural pollution, but that's come into it, but something like this. So whilst I've no objection to the proposal that the Chief Planning Officer, in conjunction with the Chair and Vice Chair, make a decision, what I would like to ask is that could be delayed for a while so that members who are concerned about this can have a site visit onto the site, look at the highway issues, look at its proximity to Croston Conservation Area, and look at some of the issues about tree loss. There's a bit in about increasing the splay. That's going into the site. It's not dealing with the stuff when they're going out on Turflands, Car Lane, Turflands and Shevington Causeway, which is a tricky, bendy road, which we've been on site visits before to that area. So what I'd like to propose, Chair, is that we just defer this till the next cycle of Planning Committee so that we can have a site visit. I'd propose a site visit, and then we can come back, and if the members are satisfied with that, we can move the recommendation that's talked of in the update that we got today.
Adele.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify a matter in relation to the surface water runoff and the concerns about pollution entering the watercourses. That is a concern that's been identified through the assessment and by Natural England, and the consequence of that is that there is a condition that's recommended requiring a construction environment management plan that would require the applicant to provide details of how surface water will be managed during construction to prevent pollution entering the watercourses. There's also a condition that was recommended by the Leigh Local Flood Authority that requires a detailed drainage strategy that again requires the applicant to demonstrate how surface water will be managed to prevent pollution entering the watercourses during the operation of the development. So there are controls there that would be in place to manage surface water and prevent pollution entering the watercourse so that it would be acceptable in relation to those habitats. Thanks, Chair.
I am allowed to respond, Chair. Thank you. No, but it's the sideways look.
Mr. Whittaker, can we not get into one of these again?
No,
Okay.
well, if you'll stop giving me sideways looks, I'll stop doing it.
I can't help it.
May I proceed? Thank you. Ian talks about the pollution, and the report is a very detailed comment on the discussions on the paper that came out today, which didn't give us a lot of time to study it. Now, it talks about attenuation tanks, it talks about things. It also talks about going into ditches and what they're going to do with all the, how can I put it, the urine from the cows. Where's that all going to go? Is that going to attenuation tanks? You know, 1,200 cows make a lot of liquid, shall we put it that way. So I realise this is going to get approved, Chairman. I realise at the end of it it's going to get approved, but I want members who are going to approve a potential pollution of the coastline and the rivers, the River Yarrow, the River Douglas, and so on and so forth. I want them to be satisfied about that before we give it the approval, before I pass it on to the Chief Planning Officer and yourself and your Vice Chair to do it without members having a chance to comment.
Well, so then.
Thank you, Chair. The main issue I had with this was obviously the surface water runoff, which has been addressed, and obviously you've gone to great lengths to produce various reports with an attenuation basin going in there. We're also looking at grey water harvesting for using for cattle for drinking with, which is a good idea. Obviously can't be counted as part of your calculations because once it's full, it's full. But yeah, good idea. You're taking up to 1,200 head of cattle, whilst Councillor Whittaker seems to make much of the fact that there's a lot of cows urinating. I would say that that's a reasonable figure if you're going to make a go of this. You've increased your head considerably. I'm all for local produce, and I think we should be supporting this particular proposal. There's a couple of items on there we've mentioned, which is the movement of trees replanting on the south side. That would be an issue for me. Car Lane is a particularly bonny route, and I do like to wander down there now and again when I'm having a bit of an out-and-about on my patch. So I would like to see some sort of a time scale on that, if we could. I wouldn't want to see it, appreciate when we're doing construction, that might be one thing, but I wouldn't like to see that going for too long with big gaps in there. And that the quid pro quo here, so to speak, is the fact that, yes, you've got your new 5-metre access there on the north side, and the south side is going to be closed off. I would want to see that put back to encourage habitat, which again has been touched on. So I would like to see some sort of a time scale on that one there. Kemp, we've touched on. Yeah, I'm okay with that, because obviously that's going to be an issue in terms of runoff and construction, etc. So provided we address them in the conditions, and there's going to be quite stringent conditions on this this proposal. I'm good with that, Chair, and I will be happy to recommend officer's recommendations to pass this. To second it, sorry, I do beg your pardon, Chair. I'm behind the
Quite all
curve.
right, I've got it written down.
Thank you.
Councillor Lowe.
Thank you, Chair. If Councillor Southern hadn't have seconded, I would have been quite happy to second Councillor Beech's recommendation as in on the addendum sheet. And I think just in direct answer to Councillor Southern, I think proposed condition 10 would actually satisfy, I hope, his concern. So I'm fully supporting, Chair.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Wilkie.
Thank you. I have concerns about a lot of cows being in one specific site and the movement of them, because quite rightly Councillor Whittaker's expressed a concern that we're moving large volumes of livestock, and I know that's not going to be increased initially, but when it's up to full capacity we're going to be moving a lot of cows a lot of the time. The existing access, can that not be used to develop this development further? Because we're actually going through some what looks like ancient bits of woodland, and wildlife's going to be destroyed. And I know that there are trees there that are preserved, and I find it amazing that we can just chop down trees that are preserved when it suits and negate the effects of that by replanting somewhere else. But my concern is that wildlife don't realise they're being moved, if you understand. This impacts negatively on the area with regard to pollution, wildlife, traffic, and I think it's a very large development in a very small rural area.
Ian.
Yes, through you, Chair. It's covered in quite a bit of detail in the report about the works that would need to be carried out to the woodland to enable access. The woodland itself, the trees are protected, but it isn't an ancient woodland. It was a planted strip around the time of the Croston Hall estate. Unfortunately, it's not practical to gain access to the new part of the development through the existing site. The site entrance to the north is wide enough to get vehicles in, but once you would enter the site, the access through the existing buildings is too narrow for modern agricultural buildings and the sort of vehicles that would need to come through there. For agricultural vehicles, rather, that need to pass through between those buildings is too narrow. Given the scale of the buildings that are proposed, it would require a new access, unfortunately, through that woodland. There are mitigation measures that have been put forward in terms of closing off the southern access. There is an existing access further to the south where vehicles pass through currently. That area of the woodland, obviously there are gaps in that, and this would give the opportunity to plant that part of the woodland back up. So there would be trees then in that part of the woodland, and it would close that gap. There'd be trees on other parts of the site, but also the woodland management plan would be required, so the woodland that is there could benefit from improved management measures, because at the moment some of the woodland isn't in as good a health as it could be. So the application does provide that opportunity, which is also a benefit of the development in mitigation for the loss of that woodland to create the access. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Go on.
I didn't put it before, I thought you clocked it.
No, I haven't. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to second Councillor Whittaker's proposal for a site visit. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I don't know exactly what you're going to find from a site visit, but hey ho. All right. Any more comments? If not, I'll move to the vote. We're voting whether to go on a site visit or not. At the moment. Okay. So now, with the outcome of that, can we vote on the officer recommendation which has been proposed and seconded, please?
Thank you, Chair. Members are minded to approve the application and delegate the decision to the Chief Planning Officer in consultation with Chair and Vice Chair, subject to no objections being received from Natural England and subject to conditions.
And thank you. That was the last item on the agenda. I have nothing urgent to come up, so